Hey guys, it's Sarah and I'm back today to talk about how I review books. If you watched my last video, which I talked about literary tropes, you will have seen me mention that I wanted to make this video, so I'm making it now, right after I made that one, so I don't forget, because that would happen otherwise. That would totally happen. So as I mentioned, I previously read City of Bones, and that got me thinking, along with other books that I've read lately. So I kind of want to talk about rating and like how do you rate books, especially if you're in a reading slump or you're not feeling it, or you know, like what do you do? I use Goodreads. I love Goodreads, and I don't specifically use it for like rating. I mean, I like to rate books on there, but it's just more of like so I can keep track of the books that I've read. But it has made me more critical of books, and it's made me think about rating more, which I never really did before. Reading books is something that I never like grew up doing. I never was like, this is a 5-star book. This more came about when I started using Goodreads a couple years ago, and kind of started thinking critically about what I was reading again. Obviously in school you kind of do that, but I started reading, I started taking those elements of rating books and judging books and thinking critically about what I was reading and using that in my spare time as well. So in that aspect I really like rating books, but I think it's so hard to rate books on a scale that's only 5 stars, which is what Goodreads has, and they don't have in between. Like they don't have like a 0.5 or anything. It's just like 1, 2, 3, 4. Really would love it if they decided to do like 4.5s and 3.5s. It'd be so much nicer, but I kind of understand why they do it. Data wise, probably a lot easier. So recently I've been kind of burnt out with the reading, and I've been experiencing a little bit of a reading slump, and haven't really just like felt the desire to read books, and I think that's taken its toll on kind of how I see books and how I review books. I know when I did my January review, if you saw that video, it was me not really knowing how I felt about books, and that's just kind of been my general consensus lately. Is been a lot of like 3 stars, and I think that's more so to do with me and my like approach to reading lately, and not the books themselves. But that's why I think it's hard to rate books, because there's different things in books that you can judge a book by. And what do you judge, like what do you guys normally judge a book by? I know for me it's readability, the kind of writing style, the prose, stuff like that, and what the story is trying to tell and what it's trying to get across, and if that has like a greater meaning, or if it has some sort of impact in my life. I am going to rate it higher if like I feel a strong connection with the book, or it's trying to tell me something and that I think is important, or you know, stuff like that. Recently read To Kill a Mockingbird, and I love that book, and that book is kind of like the best of everything. So it has I mean, a great like point to the book. It has a really wonderful storyline that kind of keeps you reading and keeps you going, keeps you interested, and it's just written really well. Like the writing style, I don't know, all those things combined in one book. The characters are wonderful, the character development's great. There are specific books that I can pick out as well that I've read, and those have all been my favorite books. Americana, Middlesex, those all kind of follow the same line of having everything that I love in a book there to kind of rate on. And so those are all 5-star books. Those are all some of my favorite. And it gets tricky when you're approaching books like City of Bones that has problematic elements to it, but you also really like. And this is where it gets confusing for me, is that what value do you put on what element? I know that my desire to read a book and my desire to keep reading a book has a big impact on how I rate it, and so I think that's why sometimes I give like less literary books higher ratings, because they're just kind of fun and they keep me interested and they keep me reading, because they're like typically just easier to read in general, like the writing's easier to process and whatnot. Reading City of Bones kind of brought me out of this reading slump, or helped me find an interest, and I don't know what it was about this book that I just kept wanting to read. And I'm gonna go read the second book because I didn't think I was going to. When I started this book, I was like, this book's not gonna be for me, like I don't like this writing style, like I don't like vampires, and it's better written than Twilight, but it reminded me of Twilight in a way that there was like problematic elements in Twilight that I didn't like, but I really was like really invested in that book when I read it, like in that series when I read it, and flew through that series, and it totally captivated me, and I'm not ashamed to say that, because so there's something about reading a book that just captivates you. And I know not everyone's going to feel that way, and I know not everyone can get into a book that is written in a certain way or something like that, but I definitely am one person that like readability and kind of storyline and how much is going on there has a lot to do with rating books, and I will rate it higher because of that. Timing is a lot when it comes to reading, and I think when it comes to like experiencing a story, and I think that's why I like rereading books, or going back and kind of seeing if I can think about that book later on. So one example that I have would be The Great Gatsby. I'd love to reread that book because I haven't read it since high school, and I read it once and I really was not feeling it, did not want to read that book, did not like it. There was classes that I took in college that dealt with like the American dream and kind of deconstructing that idea, and that's when my interest sparked again on The Great Gatsby, and I think rereading it now might be a lot different. Like I might love that book now compared to what it was then. Slaughterhouse-Five is another example of a book that I read I changed my rating for, because when I first finished that book, I was like, that book, not hard to read. It wasn't like a difficult read for me. It was hard in the fact that it was like sad and kind of depressing to read, and like, you know, it took its toll on me, I think. And so I rated it less because of the way it made me feel, and then afterwards I gave it like a 5-star rating because it stayed with me for so long, and it made me think about these feelings that it brought up in me and how those compare to what he was saying about war, and kind of processing those feelings and giving that book time to digest. That definitely changed my rating. So I don't know, guys. I guess that's all I want to say on rating books. Leave comments if you want to. I'd love to hear from you guys and hear what you rate books on, and how you rate books when you're in a reading slump, and what you feel about what I said. Let me know. And as always, you can find me down below. Links will be down there. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye, guys.